You have just come into a large sum of money, and now you are starting to wonder whether you should keep investing or use that money to pay off debt instead. If you use the money to pay off debt, you will probably feel somewhat more at ease because the financial pressure goes down. But if you put that money into investments, it could continue making even more money for you in the future. So, which choice is actually the smartest one in the end? To help you solve this problem, in today's video, we are going to explore the F-squared rule. This is the compass that helps you figure out exactly when you should prioritize getting rid of debt and when you should confidently put your money into the market and let it compete. Now let's go back to the original question, should you invest or should you pay off the loan first? To answer that question, I'm going to help you break down a few important points below. And to make it easier to picture, let us start with Bobo's everyday example. Number 1. The worry of debt and the dream of getting rich. After years of working hard, Bobo finally managed to save up a fairly large amount of money. Holding that money in hand, Bobo felt like he was standing between two very different choices: pay off debt for peace of mind, or invest so the money could keep growing. And Bobo started thinking, if he used this money to pay off all his debt, he would finally get rid of the financial burden that had been hanging over him for so long. Every month, he would no longer have to worry about interest payments or the pressure of making debt payments. Just imagining seeing his outstanding balance drop to zero made Bobo feel relieved. But on the other hand, if he invested that money, maybe it could make him even more money in the future. Instead of only solving a problem in the present, Bobo could start building wealth for himself. Bobo also understood that when money is invested, over time it can generate even more money through the power of compound growth. At that point, Bobo realized he had been looking at the problem in a slightly extreme way: either pay off debt or invest. But in reality, managing money is not always about choosing one or the other. Bobo began to think about splitting his finances into two parts. The first part is foundation, the financial base. This is the part that keeps life stable and secure, such as controlling debt and covering essential expenses. The second part is future, the financial future. This is the part for investing and building long-term wealth. And the way to balance these two financial pillars is called the F-squared rule. This rule works like a compass that helps Bobo stop feeling torn between peace of mind and the opportunity to build wealth. The important thing is to do things in the right order. First, build a strong financial foundation so life stays stable. Then, start building wealth for the future. Number 2, the first step. Before you build wealth, build your armor. Thanks to the F-squared rule, Bobo started looking at the problem in a different way. Instead of continuing to stand between two choices, paying off debt or investing, Bobo decided to take a step back and check his financial safety cushion first. This was also the moment Bobo began building his foundation, a strong financial base. The first thing Bobo did was create an emergency fund. Bobo realized that many people make the same mistake. The moment they have money, they rush to invest it, or they throw all of it at debt just to feel less stressed, while forgetting to prepare for unexpected situations. Bobo asked himself, if I lose my job tomorrow or run into a health problem, where will I get money to cover my living expenses if all my money has already gone into investments or debt payments? That is why Bobo decided to keep a separate amount of money that would be enough to cover about 3 to 6 months of living expenses. This money was set aside in a savings account and would only be used when it was truly necessary. Thanks to this emergency fund, Bobo would not have to rush to sell investments when the market was down, and he would not have to borrow even more money if an unexpected setback happened. It was like a financial shield that helped Bobo feel more secure in the face of life's risks. After setting up the emergency fund, Bobo continued reviewing the benefits at work, and Bobo discovered a great opportunity that he had not paid much attention to before. Bobo's company had a program that matched employee contributions to a savings plan or retirement fund. That means if Bobo put in a certain amount of money, the company would also contribute an equal amount. For example, if Bobo contributed $100, the company would also add another $100. That means Bobo's money would instantly double. And this is basically like earning a 100% return immediately, something that is very hard for any bank or investment option to match while still being that safe. That is why the F-squared rule treats this as a top priority. Because before Bobo even starts thinking about building wealth somewhere else, He needs to take full advantage of this free money to strengthen the very foundation he is standing on. Once his financial foundation became stronger, Bobo returned to the original question. Should he pay off debt first, or should he invest? To make a smart decision, Bobo needed a scale that could compare the cost of debt with the return from investing. And that scale is the 6% rule. Number 3. The 6% rule, the smart scale. In personal finance, the 6% rule is often seen as an important benchmark for comparing debt repayment and investing. Bobo understood that if he invested for the long term in common options, such as investment funds or stocks, the average return after inflation and taxes would often be around this level. So Bobo began using 6% as a scale to decide whether he should pay off debt or invest. First, Bobo looked at debts with interest rates higher than 6%, such as credit card debt or personal loans. These debts usually come with very high interest rates, sometimes as high as 15 to 20% per year. Bobo realized that if he paid off a debt with a 20% interest rate, that was basically like earning a guaranteed 20% return, because from that point on, he would no longer have to pay that interest. Meanwhile, it is very rare to find an investment that is both safe and able to deliver a return that high. So Bobo decided to prioritize paying off high-interest debt first, in order to eliminate the costs that were draining his money every month. After taking care of the high-interest debt, Bobo looked at the loans he had left. At that point, only debts with interest rates lower than 6% remained, such as a mortgage or a car loan, with an interest rate of around 4 to 5%. In that case, Bobo did not rush to use all of his money to pay off those low-interest loans. Instead, he kept the loans and used the money to invest. For example, if Bobo borrowed money at 4% per year, but his investments could earn around 7 to 8% per year, then after paying the loan interest, he would still have some profit left over. That difference is the extra money Bobo could earn, and it becomes a tool that helps him grow his wealth in the future. So the 6% rule helps Bobo decide whether he should pay off debt or invest. If the interest rate on the debt is higher than 6%, Bobo should prioritize paying off debt first. On the other hand, if the interest rate is lower than 6%, Bobo can consider investing the money instead. Thanks to this comparison, Bobo no longer has to make decisions based on emotion or worry. By simply looking at the interest rate on the debt, Bobo can tell what his money should be used for first. Bobo also realized that not all debt is the same. Some debts need to be dealt with right away, but others can be kept without creating too much pressure. So Bobo needs to understand the difference between bad debt and good debt. Number 4. Good debt and bad debt. Thanks to the 6% scale, Bobo now had a clearer view of money. Debts with high interest rates needed to be paid off first, while debts with low interest rates could be kept and managed wisely. Still, Bobo also realized that to use his money more effectively, he needed to clearly understand each type of debt he had. Because in reality, not all debt is the same. Some debts need to be dealt with as quickly as possible. These are often called bad debt. Bad debt usually shows up when people borrow money to buy things they do not truly need, or things that lose value quickly. For example, credit card debt after overspending, borrowing money to buy a new phone, or taking out a personal loan for short-term spending. These debts usually come with very high interest rates, sometimes reaching 15% or 20% per year. That means the interest can grow very quickly if the debt is not paid off soon. Because of that, Bobo realized that debts like these should be handled first. On the other hand, there are also loans that are considered good debt. These are loans with lower interest rates, and they are usually tied to an asset or an opportunity that can create value in the future. For example, a home loan, a loan to learn new skills, or borrowed capital to start a business. These loans are often paid back over a long period of time and can help Bobo create income or build assets in the future. Now that Bobo could clearly see the difference between bad debt and good debt, he knew which debts needed to be paid off early and which ones could be managed in a reasonable way. Because of that, Bobo could use his money more wisely, get rid of bad debt as soon as possible, and manage good debt carefully, while continuing to build wealth for the future. Number 5. Managing money with the jar method, the 5-0-3-0-2-0 rule. However, To pay off bad debt or have money to invest for the future, Bobo needed a better way to manage his money each month. So he started using a method called the 503020 rule. Instead of spending however he felt and only checking at the end of the month to see how much money he had left, Bobo decided to divide his income into 3 parts as soon as he got paid. The first part takes up about 50% of his income and is used for essential living expenses. These are necessary costs like rent, food, utilities, transportation, and other required bills. By keeping spending within this range, Bobo could make sure his basic needs were always covered. The second part takes up about 30% of his income and is set aside for personal wants and entertainment. For example, eating out, spending time with friends, shopping, or personal hobbies. Bobo understood that if he cut out these expenses completely, he would be much more likely to lose motivation during his financial journey. The final part takes up 20% of his income, and this is the most important part. This money is reserved for his financial future, including paying off debt and investing. At first, Bobo used this portion to build his emergency fund. After the emergency fund was fully set up, he continued using this money to pay off high-interest debt. And once his financial situation became more stable, this portion would be used for investing and building long-term wealth. Thanks to this clear way of dividing his money, Bobo no longer had to wonder every month how much he should set aside. Every dollar already had a specific purpose, helping Bobo control his spending while steadily improving his financial situation. Number 6. Do not wait until all your debt is gone before you start investing. Thanks to the 503020 rule, Bobo was able to control his cash flow each month. He knew exactly what his money would be used for, instead of spending it all and then worrying at the end of the month because there was nothing left. However, when he looked at the 20% set aside for finances, Bobo started wondering again. Should he use all of that money to pay off debt as quickly as possible? Or should he pay off debt while also starting to invest? At first, Bobo thought the best plan was to pay off all debt first and only invest after that. It sounded reasonable, because once he was debt-free, he would feel more relieved and more secure. But Bobo soon realized there was another problem. If he waited until all his debt was paid off before investing, he could lose a lot of valuable time. In investing, time is a very important factor. When money is invested for a long time, it can generate returns. Then those returns can continue generating even more returns. The longer the money stays invested, the more opportunity it has to grow faster over time. So if Bobo waited until all his debt was paid off, especially long-term loans like a mortgage, he could end up missing many important years for his money to grow. Instead of waiting, Bobo chose a more balanced approach. He continued paying off his high-interest debt, but at the same time, he also set aside a small amount of money each month to start investing early. This approach gave him 2 benefits. First, Bobo was able to build the habit of investing early. Second, his money already had a chance to start growing over time. Because of that, Bobo did not have to choose completely between paying off debt and investing. He could do both at the same time, as long as he managed his money wisely. Bobo's journey, from being someone confused between paying off debt and investing, finally became much smoother with the F-squared rule. Instead of constantly worrying about debt, Bobo learned how to build a strong financial foundation, deal with high-interest debt, and start investing for the future beginning today. Bobo also realized that personal finance is a journey of learning how to use money in the smartest way possible. So do not wait until everything is perfect before you begin. Build a strong foundation first, then take it one step at a time as you build your financial future.